Welcome back to the Burke and Wills Adventure. We're in the small town of Menindee right now, and it's beautiful here, and it's very, very special. See, behind me there's a plaque here, and it talks all about Burke and Wills, Charlie Gray and John King, all the guys that sort of walked all the way up to the top. Something very special about this place. See this hotel here? It was known as the Tom Paine Pub. It's now called the Mermaid or something or other. Maiden Menindee. Anyway, back then when Burke and Wills came through here, although the men camped just outside of town, Burke and Wills stayed right here in this pub in one of the rooms. I'm going to go inside there and have a look at it right now. This pub still displays some of the original items that were used back in Burke's day. However, it's surprisingly modern looking, and I was rather confused why it looks so new. The team decided to have a drink for Burke and his men while we took a break from the cold air outside and enjoyed some of the warmth. The local publican here is telling me that this hotel here, the Tom Paine Pub, burnt down in 1999. The back half of it, and unfortunately that's where all the accommodation was. So today we can't go and see the very room that Burke and Wills was in, which is a shame because we've come a long way to do it. Doesn't matter though, there's a lot of Burke and Wills memorabilia here and it's a great vibe in the town. But now we've got to move on, we've got to get to Broken Hill. So let's go see what's waiting for us there. Behind me is the burial site of Dost Muhammad, and Dost Muhammad was one of the cameleers that handled and looked after the camels for the Burke and Wills expedition. When the expedition was finished, Dost Muhammad had hurt himself, losing the use of his arm. So he came here to the township of Menindee, where he got working at a local bakery. He used to come out to this very spot here every afternoon to pray, and when he died, the locals buried him right here. This is the first time we've come close to an original member of the Burke and Wills expedition, and it's magic. Broken Hill was more than a stop for us, as it was home to someone that we had all served with back in our days in uniform. But before we could go and visit our friend who we hadn't seen in years, we took the time to resupply and purchase more food, as from this point on we'd be heading northwest towards the mighty Simpson Desert. Once the supplies were stored and secured, we went to pay a visit to our friend Wendy. In March 2005, Sergeant Wendy Jones was on leave when she answered the call asking for volunteers to go to Indonesia to provide humanitarian support after a massive earthquake. On the afternoon of April the 2nd, she boarded this very helicopter as it was to fly to the island of Nias, where she and her fellow medics and doctors would help treat the locals. But on approach, Shark 20 as it was called, crashed, killing 9 Australian Defence Force personnel on board. After crash investigators released the bodies for their return to Australia, it was Dave who was in charge of forming a guard party consisting of ADF personnel to stand as quiet sentries at the 4 points of the aircraft that had landed in Darwin, with Wendy and her crew on board as a sign of respect, until the C-130 Hercules departed for Sydney 15 hours later. I was one of the guards standing with my head bowed that Dave had handpicked. Unable to locate Wendy's grave, I took my phone and prepared myself to call every Jones family in Broken Hill, and as luck would have it, Wendy's mother Iris answered my first call. Well, we're here at the Broken Hill Cemetery, and we're waiting for Wendy's mother to come and join us. We rang her up because we couldn't find where Wendy was buried. Unfortunately, the register here doesn't tell us. So we had her number, we rang her up, and the moment she found out that a bunch of Air Force people were here to to see Wendy and pay our respects, she immediately said, I'll get into a taxi and I'll race out there right now to see you. So we're just waiting for her to arrive. It's going to be a bit of an emotional time for us. Arriving in the taxi, she took us to Wendy's grave, and as we stood there, Iris went on to say how well the Australian Defence Force looked after all the arrangements and made this terrible tragedy a little bit more bearable. Not long after Wendy was killed, Iris's other daughter was diagnosed with cancer, and this frail old woman lost her too, and her husband followed just 5 months later.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them, lest we forget.
Iris had 2 kids in the armed forces, and that's such a common story out here in country Australia. It's the small towns that seem to give so much for our country and our way of life. Out here, they have a better understanding of what it means to be Australian, where they aren't seduced by grandeurs of power and status that in truth mean nothing. Standing there made me wonder what the qualities are of a good soldier. I mean, what are they really? A good soldier answers the call and does his or her job regardless of personal opinion. A good soldier has faith that they're in good hands and guided by a government whose only agenda is the good of our nation. A good soldier doesn't hate his enemy, rather they understand it, and it's only war, it's not personal. And I know now I was never a good soldier.
We're heading to a place called Mundimundi. I'm not riding my bike because I've got a bit of a flat tyre. A bit of a flat battery. Let's not jinx it with the flat tyre thing. But the riders are ahead. I'm going to film it for you.
Mundimundi Lookout leaves any visitor speechless, as you can actually see the curvature of our planet, for those of you who believe the Earth is round. Looking from here, you're facing the Mundimundi cattle station that dates back to 1860 and once covered 372,000 acres until parts of it were sold. This spot is located just 4 kilometres outside the small town of Silverton, where the Mad Max movies were filmed. It was a fitting end to an emotional day and time to relax and enjoy the hospitality of Silverton. On this night, we put it to the vote that we would eat at the pub and let our hair down. For those of us who have hair. The team enjoyed a typical pub meal and later took part in a bizarre ritual that the locals convinced us would cure all mechanical woes by putting a potato on our head while they squirt icy cold water down our pants. It's a strange custom, but we were so desperate we felt we had nothing to lose. We got to bed early that night, and the next morning we prepared for the real outback, taking us up to Tipperburra, near the New South Wales and Queensland border. We were all very excited and keen to get moving.
Morning of day 6, after our perfect preparations yesterday, last night, well rested, everything squared away. Ready for a beautiful start before 8 o'clock in the morning. George jump starts his bike, and then the trouble started.
Yeah, it's no spark at all. It's died. So we've lost ignition, and we've inspected a few connectors here, and we actually found a wire actually been severed through.
Just like that, my bike wasn't working. I sat there helplessly watching Chris nut out the fault.
how frustrating it is with these damn bikes. If it's not one thing, it's another, and we just want to ride. Faults like this don't happen every day, but it seems they are happening every day, and I'm sick of it. I'm sick of Yamahas.
We joined that wire, we found two crimp connector, or two of those bullet type connectors, genuine Yamaha ones that are a little bit dirty. I cleaned them up too, and we've got life back into George's bike, so the adventure continues.
Finally, we were good to go. We got on our bikes and left Silverton, and our intention was to get to Tibooburra on the other side, somewhere close to Cameron's Corner. We were confident that our bikes were good, and all we had to do was hold on. During this ride, we knew that we would be covering bitumen, sand, dirt, gravel, you name it, and we were all secretly praying that our bikes would hold together, in particular Sam's bike. "3 kilometres out of Silverton, and suddenly Samantha's bike came to a grinding halt when the back brakes that we'd been working on for 2.5 days suddenly failed. And this was serious. If the brakes did this on dirt, it would throw the rider, and we couldn't sit back and let this happen. So decisions had to be made as to what to do from this point on. These back brakes had been causing us a great deal of grief, and Samantha realised these brakes were holding up the rest of the crew, and it was affecting her.
Georgie, you're a part of the team, it's just the bike. And look at George's this morning, you weren't saying friggin'
yeah, but this
George's
one has
bike
lost
too.
us maybe 2-3 days. 2 days at least. And I'm just thinking, just put it on a truck, send it back to Townsville, and I'll catch a plane home. And then you guys will be up there before you know it. No dramas.
Nah,
That's shit.
ain't gonna happen.
We'd been dodging that bullet for days, but finally the moment had come. Sam's bike was too dangerous to ride. Imagine being on a bike at 90 kilometres an hour and your brakes lock up. The high-speed fall was guaranteed, and so was injury. But Chris was determined to get this useless bike back on the road under its own steam, so he got busy with the spanners and gave it one last chance of repair. Once he was happy, Dave checked it and gave us the green light to go ahead. Finally, our bike seemed to be running right, and at high speed we headed for Tibooburra. From there, we would turn west and head for Cameron Corner, and then onto the Dig Tree for a date with the ghosts of Burke and Wills. Out here, there's nothing but dust and desert, and that's exactly how it was for Burke and Wills, and we're loving it. From this point on, we'd have no communication for 3 days with the outside world, and that's just perfectly fine with us, because all we want to do now is sit back in our seats, open up that throttle, and race into history as we follow the journey of Burke and Wills.
We're in a small town called Saddle. Our next stop's going to be Tibooburra. I've never seen so many flies, mind you. But it's really beautiful out here.
Saddle's located 175 kilometres north of Broken Hill and might not look like much, but it's rich in history dating back to 1890 when coach and camel travel meant an exchange had to be gazetted out this way, and so Saddle Hotel was built. Today, it's a great stop for coffee or maybe a sit-down hot meal. I love little towns like this.
You know, a good friend of mine's emailed me a couple of days back and told us that Sam's bike will not make it anyway. Taking that as a personal challenge. So has George, because it's his bike.
Why? Why does he believe it's not going to make it?
Well, he's a clever chappie. His name's Gordon Keane, and he's played with a lot of motorbikes and a bit of a guru on most things mechanical.
So once again, for the viewers, what was causing us to consume so much oil?
You got a free engine with this one, Bruce. I wouldn't say it's healthy, but you know, besides the oil consumption.
How much oil have we got in this bike now after doing the 130 k's or whatever we've just done?
Yeah, about to check, but we have been averaging.
I was so glad to have Chris on the adventure with us. He seemed to be a living, breathing Google of mechanics, but even he wasn't prepared for what was about to happen. Since Broken Hill, we'd covered 175 kilometres, and that means Sam's bike will have depleted its oil and thirsting for a top-up.
So we're about to check the oil, particularly on Sam's bike, which is known as the Exxon Valdez, because it just churns oil.
Oh, we're just going for the dip now for the viewers.
Now, we usually, after this many kilometres, don't have any oil on the stick, right?
No, normally it's off the stick. She's
Okay.
off the leader, and because of the type of the tank's in the frame of this bike,
Yeah.
so it's got a tube type arrangement. So you lose a leader, it's off the stick easily.
Yeah.
And it was full this morning. It was just the basic off full this morning, and Phil put the remainder of the oil in it, so it was just over. Like there's not much fuel and there's not much oil in it in the container.
There you go, guys. I did leave on the video a message that we're using from Melbourne, out of Melbourne, we're using a litre of oil.
Now let's stop right here. Can you see what I'm seeing? No one can believe that after 170 kilometres, Sam's engine has consumed no oil. Maybe that potato ritual on our heads back in Silverton really worked. Whatever it is, here's the proof. Sam's bike isn't using oil. God, I love Yamahas.
And there we go. It is still sitting on full.
Hang on a moment. We used to use a litre of oil per 100 kilometres. So what's happened? So the engine's now corrected itself?
Well, it's most probably it's cleaned itself up a bit, and that does happen with some motors that it, you know, once they load them up, they can clean themselves up. So the damage may not have been as bad as we originally thought. But
so these
it's
bikes,
still early days, though, George.
So these bikes are self-repairing.
So
there's every reason to believe.
So
there's every reason to believe if we just keep riding, the brake will correct itself as well.
No.
Okay, a self-repairing motorbike was wishful thinking, but suddenly it felt like the whole world was lifted off my shoulders, knowing that Sam's bike is now finally settling in. Off to Tibooburra next to pick up some more fuel, and then we head for the Dead Heart. If wealth was measured by happiness, then we were the richest people in the world at this very moment. Sitting back on our bikes, chatting to each other through our headsets, made it feel like we were all sitting on a couch chatting away as this amazing country revealed itself to us all. Our spirits were not only high, but a real sense of accomplishment engulfed us. 1,800 kilometres behind us was the wet and cold city of Melbourne, which we left just 6 days ago. And although the nights were certainly very cold out here in the desert, by day it was warm enough for us to just wear our riding gear. Now, you might wonder how we keep ourselves entertained while riding what appears to be the longest stretches of country road with little to see. Well, thanks to the ability to chat via Bluetooth comms, we spent our days playing a game called Topic of the Day. Now, each day we would introduce a topic with a question for each rider, and they had to contribute. Well, let me give you an example. Have you ever quit your job and told your boss to piss off? Now, a question like that can't be answered in just one word. So suddenly, you find yourself listening to one of the team members was sharing a major event in their life, giving us all a better understanding of each other, and each and every member had to contribute to make that happen. The topic at this point was, is it possible the potato ritual back in Silverton worked for Sam's bike? Well, there was two consistent answers. Number one, no, and number two, stop being stupid. We're in Camp 6, and we've made camp now
We're just getting ready for our evening routine. Some food's going to be cooked up. And the social side of the ride begins. My favourite part, actually. Behind me, just about here, in this spot right here, are some kangaroos. And I've never eaten kangaroo meat. So I've just got to come up with a way to catch one. And then it's kangaroo satay tonight.
Good on you, George. I'll take the credit for it.
Well done, Phil. That's a lot of firewood.
Yeah, good
But
on you,
Sam,
Phil.
you didn't. Where's your
Good
fire?
on you, Phil.
Well done, Samantha. And we are about 100 clicks out of Cameron Corner. Christopher starting the fire. Got plenty of firewood there, thanks to Samantha and Phil. Tonight we are not setting up a tarp. Tonight we are doing true outback swaggy style, using just our swags and good company and lots of scary stories tonight. Sam, are you going to tell us some scary stories tonight?
If I could remember a scary story, I'd tell you one.
Tell us the story when Sam met you, when Phil met you, when Chris met you and made his intentions known to you. That must have been pretty bloody scary.
I can't go back that far.
That was in the dark ages. Well, Christopher, who majored in Boy Scouts, got a badge for lighting fires. He's doing a great job. Fire's a bit small there though, mate. What's going on?
Yeah, we haven't got a lot of wood, so we'll just keep it small
And cosy.
and cosy and just make it a little bit bigger a bit later in the evening, I think.
Isn't it great that we're not up near the River Murray where we have icicles on our bikes? While we were all planning to relax after a successful day's ride, Chris's mind was on a new fault with the bike that I was riding. It had suddenly stopped charging the battery, and that meant I wouldn't be able to start it in the morning.
I was wondering why our tools have to be so
Conveniently
located.
available.
So they have to be right on Dave's floor so we can work on one of George's motorcycles. And it's
That's
George's
right,
this
one
evening.
of them, right? Because I've got a lot of them. So, you know, so I like how he bags me out all the time. Dude, I got a lot of motorbikes, okay? I got a lot on my mind. Okay, I'm running across Australia here. You know, I got commitments. I got people that depend on me.
Back to your motorcycle.
Anyway, back to the bike. So what's going on?
Yeah, we've got a bit of a charge problem with this one. It's been a bit intermittent over the last 3 or 4 days. You know, I hear George over the headset, oh, I'm down to 9 volts, and then it's 13.6 again. So
You know how I can tell? Because earlier on, I installed a voltmeter. Huh? Look at that. Huh? Huh?
Can
Me?
Can viewers tell that he's Greek? Look at all that crap sitting up there.
You know what?
No room for fluffy eyes.
All right, I give up. I give up.
Well, here we are, another great meal prepared by Phil and Sam. Butter chicken, rice cooked by the absorption method. The butter chicken has also got potatoes, carrots, beans in it, so it's a good mix of all the things we need. We're out in the road.
We're eating
Why
like...
wouldn't you love it?
We're eating like... kids love it. In fact, the kids love it. Chris, you've had a big day today. From the crack of dawn, you were fixing motorbikes, sorting out wires, sorting out brakes, sorting out your wife. You know, good on you, mate. You are doing a great job, mate.
Oh, my hand's a little bit sore. Can you tell? Fingers a little bit pinky on the end. They're not quite used to the mechanic type work.
I find it remarkable how you managed to find every fault and sort it out. Mate, you're a legend, and you should be on every motorbike expedition in Australia. That's what I reckon.
I'd be there.
So ring this number now at the bottom of your screen and contact Chris. Let's go and eat, mate. Let's go and eat.
Thank you.
Sam, how's your meal?
Oh, it's delicious. It's really good. I don't feel like I'm camping at all. It's too good.
What did you think of today's drive, Sam? Our big ride from Silverton out to the western side of Tibooburra.
Oh, well, we've heard a lot of stories about the dirt roads, and we've sort of had a bit of the wind put up us, but I thought it was fine. The dirt roads were pretty good. It's hard sort of dirt. I'm looking forward to, you know, the next day ahead of us. It was really good.
She would just like to run a whole lot faster, you know.
Yeah.
Crank.
Now, Dave, you've told me before down at the survey you were rather bored watching us in front of you. It sort of put you to sleep. You were complaining that you didn't know what to do, whether to turn your heater on or your aircon on because your window was up, window was down. You're doing it hard, aren't you?
You blokes think you got it hard in the bikes.
No.
You don't know how hard it is in the cab. 1 minute I've got to put the aircon on, next thing I've got to put the heater on, window up, window down, fresh air recirculate. And today, my snakes melted on the dashboard and they're all soggy. It's hard work in the cab.
Noticed.
If you had known it was going to be like this, would you have signed up?
Oh, hell yeah.
That's excellent. Now, Phil went missing in action today because he rides a whole lot faster than us, so he disappeared up the track there. And then how long were you waiting for us to catch up with you? You were all up. Seriously, how long were you waiting for?
Since Tuesday.
No, come on, man. How long were you waiting for? Because you were riding a lot, faster than us. I'm the slowest rider, so obviously everyone's sort of hanging around with me. How long were you waiting for? 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
Yeah, about that. I actually fell asleep under that sign. So
Wow, mate, shot on the head. Excellent. How's the food, by the way?
pretty good.
You put chili flakes on it as well.
In one end, out the other.
Oh, he's ready. And look, see, he's got it near the campfire.
Phil was a cheat.
I said that in one of my videos. Good on you.
Before we sign off, I want to share with you what drives us as adventurers. I mean, why do we do it? Well, it's to challenge, it's to discover, and it's certainly to inspire. This is also part of the reason the early explorers did it, pushing the boundaries of mankind and human endurance. You see, we find out more about ourselves in adversity than we could in comfort. And what drives us? The refusal to live life through bullshit dramas that have been written for our amusement on TV, when we can create our own real-life screenplay which will be burnt into our memories forever. People like Burke and Wills believed that the drive to explore is part of what makes us human. From prehistory to modern times, our ancestors have crossed great distances on foot, in boats and vehicles, and on the backs of animals to find new lands. They established trade, exchanged ideas, and ran into unimaginable obstacles and great rewards along the way. There are many motivations for exploration. Great expectations are all driven in part by curiosity and excitement about the unknown. Our adventure isn't a high-profile sponsored expedition that's brought to you by Coca-Cola. Our adventure is brought to you by 5 real Australians who live and breathe the beauty of this great land we devoted our lives to protect and defend. It's our love for this country and its rich history that isn't being taught enough in our schools anymore that drives us to put this story together and make it easy for every generation to view and learn from. So, keep watching the Burke and Wills Adventure of 2014.